The father of faith. Genesis chapter 22, verses 1 through 18. It's been said, God is too wise to make a mistake, too good to do evil. In Genesis chapter 22, God dramatically tested Abraham's devotion to him with the instruction to offer Isaac, his son, as a burnt offering on a mountain. Abraham's other son, Ishmael, had left with his mother, Hagar, in Genesis chapter 21, verses 9 through 20. And his wife Sarah would die in the next chapter. Abraham faced the most critical test of his life. His life would fade in the background after this, and the stage would be occupied by his son Isaac. Passing the test would cement Abraham's legacy and landmark in Jewish history. Stories of faith and courage would be told. Jewish history would be made, and Abraham would receive the highest and most affectionate accolade God had given man, the friend of God. James chapter 2, verses 21 through 23. How do believers handle the test of faith, especially when the stakes were high? What motivates a man of faith to surrender to God's seemingly illogical request? How does testing mature one's faith? First, let testing show your dependence. Genesis chapter 22, verses 1 through 5. The verb tested in verse 1 occurs for the first time in the Bible. Take, go, and sacrifice. In verse 2 are in the imperative mood. The word only and your only son occurs 3 times in verses 2, 12, and 16. The word certainly struck a deep, delicate, and dear chord in Abraham's heart. Abraham did the unexpected. He left early the next morning in verse 3, did the preparation by himself, and was resolute in the next 3 days. In verse 4, he took wood. In verses 3, 6, 7, 9, and 9. Burnt offering in verses 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, and 13. Fire in verses 6 and 7. And knife in verses 6 and 10 for the trip. He had a no-nonsense, all-business, professional-like approach to sacrificing Isaac. The word son occurs 9 times in the passage, always with a passion and possessive personal pronoun to it. Thrice as your son in verses 2, 12, and 16. 5 times as his son in verses 3, 6, 9, 10, and 13. And twice as my son in verses 7 and 8. To make things more touching, father occurs twice in verse 7 as spoken by Isaac. Second, let testing stretch your development. Genesis chapter 22, verses 9 through 12. Abraham was not the father of all who believe. Romans chapter 4, verse 11. The father of circumcised. Romans chapter 4, verse 12. And the father of many nations. Romans chapter 4, verse 17. For nothing, verse tends to slay, is in the affirmative, indicating Abraham's sincere purpose. Hebrews chapter 11, verses 17 through 19, reveals that Abraham reasoned that God could raise the dead, and figuratively speaking, he did receive Isaac back from death. He believed that God would raise and return to him his child without a hair, bone, or muscle missing. Tears fell from Abraham's eyes, but no rage was found. His heart broke, but it did not die, and no curse was found in his mouth, because his hope in God was unshakable and unwavering. His hope in God was against all hope. In Romans chapter 4, verse 18, he believed in the God of the impossible and God of the inconceivable. That was why he said to the 2 young men, "We will come back to you," in verse 5. Third, let testing shape your destiny. Genesis chapter 22, verses 13 through 18. As readers might know, the verbs tested and tempted are the same in the scriptures. The differences lie in their source, the nature and purpose. God cannot be tempted by evil, nor does he tempt anyone. As in James chapter 1, verse 13, the Lord would never permit us to do what is immoral, inhuman, or irresponsible. God tested Abraham to develop and deepen the goodness and grace that were inherent in Abraham. Abraham looked up, and there in the thicket he saw a ram caught by its horns. So he called the place, "The Lord will provide." The word provide in verse 14, Jehovah and Jireh, is a fitting translation of the corresponding Hebrew word see. The word provide is from two words, pro or before, and video or see. The Hebrew word is simply God will see or God will see to it. God kept Abraham through his test, torment, and triumph. The lamb was a testimony to God's foreknowledge of man's physical, emotional, and spiritual need. In conclusion, do you walk by faith or by sight? Is faith accompanied by action in your life? In James chapter 2, verse 17, God is faithful. He will not let us be tempted beyond what we can bear. 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 13, at the end of every trial, God has promised, blessed is the man who perseveres under trial, because when he has stood the test, he will receive the crown of life that God has promised to those who love him. James chapter 1, verse 12.